Have you ever had that strange feeling? That inexplicable urge pushing you to take a different route to work? Or that sudden impulse to call someone you haven't thought about in years? Most people would brush these moments aside as random thoughts. But what if I told you that these aren't random at all? What if these are actually messages from your future self? Imagine for a moment that time isn't the straight line we think it is, that somewhere in the quantum field of infinite possibilities, there exists a version of you who has already lived through your current challenges, who has already made the decisions you're struggling with right now. And this future version of you is desperately trying to communicate, sending ripples back through time in the form of intuitions, dreams, and what we usually dismiss as coincidences. The stakes here are extraordinary, because if you're receiving these messages, and I believe you are, understanding how to recognize and interpret them could quite literally change the trajectory of your entire life. Today, you're going to discover exactly how your future self communicates with you, why these messages are becoming more frequent in our current time, and most importantly, how to tune into them with crystal clarity. But before we dive into the signs themselves, we need to understand something fascinating about the nature of time and consciousness. Recent breakthroughs in quantum physics have shown us that time isn't the rigid, forward-moving arrow we once thought it was. Scientists at prestigious institutions like MIT and Princeton have demonstrated that particles can influence their own past, creating what they call closed time-like curves. What does this mean for you? It means that consciousness, your consciousness, isn't bound by traditional laws of time. Your future self exists in what quantum physicists call a superposition of possibilities, and through the phenomenon of quantum entanglement, can actually reach back through time to influence your present moment decisions. Think about it. How many times have you had a gut feeling that saved you from a bad situation, or a dream that later came true in surprising detail? These aren't coincidences. They're what scientists call retrocausal signals. Information traveling backwards through time, specifically aimed at helping you make better choices in your present moment. But here's where things get really interesting. Research in temporal psychology has shown that our brains are actually wired to communicate with our future selves. Dr. Hal Hershfield's groundbreaking studies at UCLA demonstrated that when people connect with their future selves, they make dramatically different decisions. Decisions that lead to better outcomes, greater happiness, and more fulfilled lives. What if I told you that right now, in this very moment, your future self is sending you messages that could help you avoid mistakes, seize hidden opportunities, and step into the life you're truly meant to live? The signs are there. You've probably experienced them today already. You just haven't known what to look for until now. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you the 7 unmistakable signs that your future self is trying to communicate with you. These aren't vague spiritual concepts. They're practical, observable phenomena that you can start recognizing immediately in your own life. And once you understand them, you'll never look at your intuitions, dreams, or coincidences the same way again. When we talk about messages from our future self, the first and most common sign might already be happening to you right now. I'm talking about those moments of inexplicable certainty, those times when you feel an overwhelming urge to do something that seems to make no logical sense in the present moment. Let me share a story that perfectly illustrates this. Sarah, a software engineer from Boston, had a comfortable job at a prestigious tech company. One morning, she felt an overwhelming urge to update her resume. Not because she was unhappy, not because she was looking for a change, but because something deep inside her was pushing her to do it. 3 weeks later, a startup she'd never heard of reached out to her through a mutual connection. Today, she's their chief technology officer, leading groundbreaking projects she couldn't have imagined in her previous role. This is what we call temporal intuition, when your future self recognizes a crucial moment in your timeline and sends back an emotional signal strong enough to catch your attention. These signals often feel like they're coming from your gut, but they're actually coming from your future. The second sign is what I call future echoes. These are recurring thoughts or ideas that keep showing up in your consciousness, often about something you've never considered before. Maybe you suddenly develop an interest in learning a specific language, or you find yourself drawn to books about a particular subject. These aren't random interests. They're breadcrumbs left by your future self, leading you towards skills or knowledge you'll need later. But here's something crucial you need to understand about these first two signs. They don't always make sense in your current context. In fact, if they did make perfect logical sense, they wouldn't be messages from your future self. They'd just be rational thoughts based on your present circumstances. The very fact that these urges or interests seem out of place is often the biggest indicator that they're authentic future communications. The third sign is what quantum physicists call temporal resonance. You might experience this as a sudden feeling of expansion, as if your consciousness has briefly touched something larger than your present moment. It often happens when you're making important decisions, and it feels like time itself has paused for a moment. This sensation is actually your consciousness briefly aligning with your future self's timeline. Think of it like this. Imagine your life as a river flowing from present to future. Most of the time, you're carried along by the current of daily events. But sometimes, at crucial moments, the river creates what scientists call an eddy, a small whirlpool where the water circles back on itself. These moments of temporal resonance are like spiritual eddies, where future consciousness circles back to touch the present. Now, you might be wondering why these signs are becoming more frequent in our current time. The answer lies in the unprecedented rate of change in our world. As our collective future becomes more uncertain, our future selves are working harder than ever to guide us toward optimal outcomes. Every decision you make today creates ripples that affect not just your timeline, but the timelines of countless others connected to you. This is why understanding these signs isn't just about personal benefit. It's about your role in the greater tapestry of human consciousness. Your future self isn't just trying to help you make better decisions. They're trying to help you step into your highest potential at a time when the world desperately needs everyone operating at their peak capacity. As we move into the more advanced signs, I want you to start paying attention to something specific. Notice how your body feels as we discuss these concepts. Are you getting goosebumps? Do you feel a subtle excitement or recognition? These physical responses are actually the fourth sign we're about to discuss, and they're happening right now because your future self is confirming that you need to hear what's coming next. The fourth sign arrives through your physical body, and it's one of the most fascinating ways your future self communicates. Have you ever felt a sudden warmth spread across your chest when thinking about a particular decision? Or perhaps you've experienced unexpected chills when considering a specific path forward? These aren't just random physical sensations. Your future self communicates through what scientists call somatic markers, physical sensations that carry important messages about your potential futures. Think about the last time you were about to make an important decision. Did your stomach tighten? Did your heart race? Most people dismiss these as anxiety or stress, but there's something much more profound happening. Your future self, who has already lived through the consequences of these choices, is literally sending physical sensations back through time to guide you. It's like having a biological early warning system, calibrated by your own future experiences. Consider this. Maria, a young entrepreneur, was about to sign a contract with what seemed like a perfect business partner. Everything looked good on paper, but every time she picked up the pen to sign, she felt an inexplicable heaviness in her chest. She later discovered that this potential partner had a history of fraudulent dealings. Her future self was literally trying to protect her through physical sensation. The fifth sign comes through what I call temporal dreams. These are different from regular dreams or even prophetic dreams. Temporal dreams have a distinct signature. They feel more real than your regular dreams, almost as if you're watching a memory rather than experiencing a dream. In these dreams, you might see yourself in situations that haven't happened yet, but they don't feel strange or surreal like typical dreams. Instead, they carry a weight of inevitability. But here's what most people don't understand about temporal dreams. They're not just previews of what's to come. They're interactive portals where your future self can transfer entire packages of information directly into your subconscious mind. This is why you sometimes wake up from these dreams with complete solutions to problems you haven't even encountered yet. The sixth sign is perhaps the most subtle yet powerful: cognitive resonance. This occurs when you suddenly understand something complex without having learned it through traditional means. It might feel like information is simply appearing in your mind, fully formed and crystal clear. This isn't random inspiration. It's your future self transferring knowledge back through time, helping you bypass years of trial and error. Scientists at the Institute of Noetic Sciences have documented cases where individuals suddenly developed complex problem-solving abilities or understood advanced concepts without any prior exposure. While mainstream science struggles to explain these phenomena, quantum physicists suggest these might be examples of retrocausal learning, knowledge from the future flowing backward through time. Now here's where all of this begins to converge into something truly extraordinary. Each of these signs, the physical sensations, the temporal dreams, and the cognitive resonance, are actually part of a larger communication system. They're working together to guide you toward what quantum physicists call your optimal timeline. This is the version of your future that represents your highest potential, your greatest joy, and your most profound impact on the world. But there's something crucial you need to understand about this guidance system. It's not just about making your life easier or more successful. Your future self is trying to guide you toward experiences that will help you fulfill your deepest purpose. Even if those experiences sometimes include challenges or apparent setbacks. Every message has a purpose, every sensation carries meaning, and every dream contains a piece of the puzzle that is your optimal future. As we move into the final and most profound sign, I want you to pay special attention to what you're feeling right now. Because if you're resonating with this information, if something deep inside you is recognizing these truths, that recognition itself is a sign. Your future self is confirming that you're ready to understand the seventh sign, the one that ties everything together and reveals how to consciously participate in this extraordinary dialogue across time. The seventh and most profound sign of future self-communication manifests through what quantum physicists and spiritual teachers alike call synchronistic cascades. These aren't just isolated coincidences. They're orchestrated sequences of meaningful events that seem to guide you toward specific outcomes. Your future self arranges these patterns like stepping stones across the river of time, creating pathways of synchronicity that lead you toward your optimal future. Let me share a remarkable example that illustrates this perfectly. David, a high school teacher, noticed a strange pattern developing in his life. First, he kept encountering references to quantum physics in unexpected places, in conversations, advertisements, even graffiti on his daily commute. Then, books about consciousness studies started literally falling off shelves when he walked past them in stores. Finally, he received 3 separate invitations in 1 week to attend a quantum consciousness symposium from people who didn't know each other. Following these synchronistic breadcrumbs led him to discover his true calling as a consciousness researcher, combining quantum physics with educational theory to revolutionize how we understand learning. What makes these synchronistic cascades different from regular coincidences is their progressive nature. They build upon each other, creating an unmistakable pattern that becomes increasingly difficult to dismiss as random chance. Your future self understands the precise sequence of events needed to guide you toward your optimal timeline and orchestrates these synchronicities as a form of temporal choreography. But here's what most people miss about these cascades of meaningful coincidence. They're actually invitations to engage in conscious dialogue with your future self. Each synchronicity is like a thread in a cosmic conversation, and when you acknowledge these patterns, you strengthen the connection. This is why awareness is so crucial. The more conscious you become of these signs, the more frequent and clear they become. Now let me share something that might challenge your current understanding of reality. These 7 signs, from the subtle physical sensations to the grand synchronistic cascades, aren't just isolated phenomena. They're part of an interconnected guidance system that your future self has carefully calibrated to your unique frequency of consciousness. Think of it like a spiritual GPS, constantly recalculating your route toward your highest potential. But here's the crucial part that brings everything together. Your future self isn't just sending these messages to guide you. They're sending them to awaken you to your true nature as a multidimensional being. Every intuitive push, every prophetic dream, every synchronistic cascade is designed not just to guide your decisions, but to expand your consciousness beyond the limitations of linear time. This is where practice becomes essential. To strengthen your connection with your future self, you need to develop what I call temporal awareness. This means maintaining a state of conscious receptivity to these signs while going about your daily life. It's about learning to recognize the difference between ordinary thoughts and future self-communications, between random coincidences and meaningful synchronicities. The practical application of this knowledge begins with a simple but powerful practice: temporal journaling. Every evening, take a few moments to record any unusual sensations, unexpected thoughts, or meaningful coincidences you experience during the day. Look for patterns, connections, and recurring themes. This creates a feedback loop that strengthens your ability to recognize and interpret these signs in real time. As your awareness grows, you'll begin to notice something extraordinary. The messages from your future self become clearer, more frequent, and more precise. It's like tuning a radio to exactly the right frequency. Suddenly, what was once static becomes a clear signal, carrying wisdom and guidance from your highest potential self. But remember this: your future self isn't trying to control your path. They're trying to empower you to make conscious choices that align with your highest good. Every message, every sign, every synchronicity is an invitation to step more fully into your power as a co-creator of your reality. Now let me share with you the practical integration steps that will help you maintain and strengthen this profound connection with your future self. Because understanding these signs is only the beginning. The real transformation comes from knowing how to consciously work with them. The first step in this integration process is what I call temporal meditation. This isn't your regular meditation practice. Instead of trying to clear your mind, you're creating a conscious bridge across time. Find a quiet space. Close your eyes and imagine yourself sitting across from your future self. Feel their presence, their energy, their wisdom. They've already walked the path you're on, already overcome the challenges you face. Let yourself receive their guidance without judgment or doubt. Many people ask me how to distinguish between regular thoughts and messages from their future self. The key lies in the quality of the communication. Future self messages carry a distinct resonance. They often feel like remembering something you haven't experienced yet. They have a clarity and certainty that regular thoughts lack. Regular thoughts feel like they're coming from your mind, while future self messages feel like they're arriving from somewhere else. Here's a profound truth that will transform how you work with these messages. Your future self isn't just sending guidance about major life decisions. They're constantly communicating about seemingly small choices that have cascading effects through time. That coffee shop you feel drawn to visit, that book you can't explain why you need to read, these subtle pushes are often the beginning of a sequence of events that your future self can see unfolding. This brings us to what I call temporal alignment practice. Each morning, take a moment to state this simple but powerful intention. I am open to receiving guidance from my future self today. I trust the signs and messages that come my way. This creates a receptive field in your consciousness that strengthens the connection across time. But here's something crucial that most people miss. Your future self isn't just trying to help you avoid mistakes or find success. They're trying to guide you toward experiences that will catalyze your spiritual evolution. Sometimes this might mean being guided toward challenges that will strengthen you, or apparent setbacks that will redirect you toward your true path. The deepest level of this work happens when you begin to realize something extraordinary. Through this practice of conscious communication with your future self, you're actually participating in your own evolution. Every time you recognize and act on these signs, you're not just receiving guidance, you're actively co-creating your optimal timeline. Think about that for a moment. Every decision you make based on these signs creates ripples through time that affect not just your future, but the futures of countless others connected to you. This is why your future self is reaching back through time, because they understand the profound impact of the choices you're making right now. Before we close, I want to share one final truth that ties everything together. You are already someone's past self. Just as your future self is sending you guidance, someone in the future is receiving the ripples of the choices you're making right now. This understanding adds a profound layer of responsibility and purpose to how we work with these signs. If this video has resonated with you, if you've felt those subtle confirmations we talked about while watching, that's your future self acknowledging that you're ready for this deeper level of temporal communion. Take a moment to notice how you feel right now. Those sensations, those realizations, those moments of recognition, they're all part of the conversation that's already begun. Remember, every great journey begins with a single step. Your future self is reaching out across time, offering guidance, wisdom, and support. The question is, are you ready to consciously participate in this extraordinary dialogue? Are you ready to step into your role as a temporal being, capable of receiving and acting upon wisdom from your future self? Thank you for joining me on this exploration of future self communication. If this resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more insights into consciousness, time, and human potential. Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to recognize these signs in their own life. Until next time, stay aware, stay open, and remember, your future self is always with you, guiding you toward your highest potential.